This is the Asia HR Forum 2023.
I was not going to speak about this. I was going to be speaking about something else. And something happened. Something happened to me earlier this year. Something really consequential. And I felt that if I didn't share it with you, I would be doing you a disservice. I had a chat with ChatGPT. How many of you have had a chat with ChatGPT? Put up your hands if you've had a chat with ChatGPT. Let's see you. Okay, a few of you. And I wasn't here for Frank's presentation. One of the things I love about your work, Frank, is that it is so practical and applicable. And if you haven't put into practice yet, that's probably because the conference is still running. But I want to give you a slightly broader picture, because while Frank gets to the real nitty-gritty of how you can really apply this, I guess for me, that moment was, well, let me ask you, for how many of you who spoke to Chat, was it scary? Like, put up your hand if it was like a little like, whoa, this is a little scary. Not a lot of fear. How many of it was it exciting? It was like, this is really exciting. I want to see those hands. So any of you use Chat? Though exciting, put up the hands. Yeah? A little scary? Anyone? Just me and you? My soul sister. For how many of you did you go, ooh, I wonder if this could maybe do my job one day? Anyone had that thought? A few of you? How many of you thought, hey, this could make my job better? Yeah? Okay, good. All right, so I'm seeing a lot of, I guess I should expect this, the HR positive in the room, and you guys get it. There is tremendous opportunity here. But maybe there's a little edge to this as well. And I certainly felt that. And when I was looking at what Chat does and started to see that this could potentially do some, or perhaps even one day all of what I do, I struggled with that. And I asked, who was the best person to ask? Well, it wasn't quite a person. Chat. I asked Chat what Chat thought that I should do. And it gave me this answer that was so moving and so profound and so reassuring. And I'm going to share that answer with you a little bit later, because I think it gives us the guidance that we need for this brave new world. But before I do that, I want to welcome you, ladies and gentlemen. I want to welcome you, amazing humans, to the most unprecedented acceleration of change in the history of humankind. You don't need to be a futurist to see it. You can be a presentist and see it right here now. Take out your phone for me, if you will, please. Take out your phone. We are already cyborgs, with more computing power in the palm of our hand than what it took to get Apollo to the moon, with access to virtually all the information in the world, and now with your very own robot, ChatGPT, which can answer any of your questions in any language, in any style, from Oprah to Elvis. And if it can't answer, it'll make up something anyway and propound it with absolute confidence. Maybe its most human quality. You can see it in genetic editing, which is potentially becoming a cure for many diseases and maybe even aging. You can see it right here in the Philippines. How many of you know of the AI initiative just last week that was announced in your beautiful country with rice? You have created climate resistance rice, thanks to AI, right here in the Philippines. You can see it in self-driving drone taxis that have been trialed in the UAE. No more traffic excuses for coming late to work when we get those to the Philippines. Unless, of course, we fall out of the sky and then we've got a bigger problem. But that's unlikely to happen, because it turns out that over 90% of all accidents are caused by human drivers. Imagine we took human drivers out of the equation. We could save over 1 million lives a year. Just think about it. Forget don't drink and drive. Don't drive. Drinking optional. But if we ban human drivers, maybe one day we'll ban human judges. Before eating breakfast or lunch, just before that meal, a judge is 65% less likely to grant parole to a prisoner. Why? Ever been hangry? Angry because you're hungry? Yeah? Well, judges are no different. And that's why sometimes justice is whether the judge ate lunch. Just imagine being an innocent prisoner in front of that judge. Your Honor, I don't expect mercy, but please, for God's sake, just eat something. Apparently there is such a thing as a free lunch. He ate lunch, I go free. A machine learning algorithm at the University of Missouri can now predict better than a human judge which prisoners are more likely to recommit crime. And it does that on an empty stomach. Now, if computers are doing all of that, my friends, what does it say for you and I? You are in the people business, and the truth is, human resources isn't one thing, it's the only thing. It's all about people. But what does it say for us? What does it say for our people? For their concerns and anxiety? And we're talking here really because we love people, right? That's why we do this. What does it say for all their jobs? Well, according to Elon Musk and many of his AI techno whizzes, just about any job that you can think of could eventually be done by a computer. And that's because human behavior boils down to an input, something that we do, that produces an output, a result. And that's what computers do. Computers convert inputs into outputs based on the rules that we give them. Except, amazing humans, the latest computers are not playing by our rules anymore. They're playing by their own. And that is why from chess to Go to virtually any other game you can think of, computers are kicking our humanoid butts. They are, through trial and error, teaching themselves new success strategies to win. And while a thought travels in a human brain at a not too shabby 100 meters per second, in a computer, information travels at a, wait for it, although if you're a computer, you wouldn't have to wait for it, 300 million meters per second. Literally the speed of light. Without daydreaming, without brain freeze. Now, right now, computers cannot do everything that we can do. They can't do most of what we can do. But what are the chances that one day that will happen? Now, I'm no futurist. Futurists are like fortune tellers. They get paid a lot of money to tell you what's going to happen, even when it doesn't happen. And when it doesn't happen, you don't remember because it's long after the presentation. Far more effective than any futurist are actually crowds, groups of people. Metaculus is an online prediction site made up of both individuals and experts. And G-Marie, I think it was you talking about experts. And one of the dangers of being an expert, experts do ask less questions. They have assumptions that they know more than they do. And so that's why what Metaculus has found is that actually it's better to have both experts and amateurs, and you actually get a better aggregated result. Metaculus will predict everything from who's going to win the Super Bowl to when we'll get superintelligence. What is superintelligence? Folks, superintelligence is when a computer can effectively do more than a human in general. So it's artificial general intelligence. So it's not already computers can say, do calculations quicker than us, but now could effectively do everything that we do better, right? One computer. And Metaculus was predicting that this would happen last year. They were predicting this would happen in the early 2040s. By the way, Metaculus has a 90% success rate on prediction, more successful than any single futurist. This year, after the most extraordinary breakthroughs in artificial intelligence, Metaculus is now predicting this for the early 2030s. That's 10 years away. I don't want you to take Metaculus's word for it. I want you to consider the evidence for yourself. And to do that, we're going to take a little trip, not into the future. We're going to take a little trip into the past. We're going to go back to 1965, when Gordon Moore, one of the founders of Intel, notices something odd. The transistors on a computer chip are doubling virtually every 18 months. What does this mean? That effectively computing power is doubling. What is doubling? Doubling is what we call exponential change. We're living within exponential growth. To really get exponential growth, you need to contrast it to linear growth. So what's the difference between linear and exponential? Let's say that you had 30 steps, and you were going to take 30 steps in a linear fashion. You'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you would get to the number 30. Exactly. Now, if you're going to take those same 30 steps, doubling exponentially, you'd go 1, 2, 2, 4, 4, 8, 8, 16, 16, 32. And by the time you got to your 30th step, what number would you be at? Anyone? A wild guess? 1 billion. And if you doubled again, 2 billion. So, think of all the computing power that we have in the world today. Think of all the innovation and creativity and computing genius. 18 months from now, it doubles. Another 18 months, it doubles again and again and again. Do you see where we may be in the early 2030s? Yeah? That's exponential growth. That's how fast we are progressing, folks. That is how fast we are moving. Now, if that happens, it's still an if that happens, well, what will happen? Einstein had an IQ of 160. Imagine a computer with double that, triple that. Imagine a computer with an IQ of 1,000. How do we know what it'll do? It's like me asking what my cat thinks I will do next week. And that's why Ray Kurzweil, who heads up innovation at Google, calls it a singularity. What is a singularity? It's a fundamental rupture in the history of humankind where you can't predict exactly what's going to happen. But Kurzweil believes, along with many others, that we will solve most of our global problems, from poverty to aging to hunger. In fact, when Time magazine interviewed Ray Kurzweil, they made this the cover. 2045, the year that man becomes immortal. So just think about it. All you need to do is exercise and eat healthily till 2045, and you could live forever. Now, of course, we need to be careful, right? Like nuclear power, you get this into the wrong hands, and things might not work out so well. In fact, not even getting into the wrong hands, just itself, we've got to make sure that AI doesn't think it might be better without us. And fortunately, right now, as we speak, governments are putting in place regulations, safety regulations for AI. And of course, we can't say this is going to happen. But the fact that one of the world's most credible publications is suggesting it as a possibility tells you the world that we are living in, this crazy exponential growth that we are living in. However, it may not happen. And even if it does happen, we've got to live in this world. And we're in the people business. We want to make sure that people live well, and we want to make sure that we live well. So, my question, how do we live well? How do we thrive during the most unprecedented change in the history of humankind? And to answer that question, we need to take a look at what is still the greatest computer in the known universe. The 3 pounds of flesh between your ears. Humans have possessed brains largely the same shape and size for 100,000 years. Now just consider that. For 100,000 years. The first 50,000 years of human development, we were not all that impressive. We roamed the African savanna. That's right, going by our ancestry, deep down inside, we are all African. Some of us just lost the rhythm. We roamed the African savanna with a deep, meaningful purpose. Don't die. That was pretty much it. We scavenged for meat, foraged for plants, slept in a cave, and made it till the ripe old age of 30, if we were lucky. Our descendants would live almost exactly like us for tens of thousands of years. And then, around about 50,000 years ago, there's this explosion of human developments. We see sophisticated tool use, control of fire, burial, boats that take us around the world, trade and exchange. And for a time, there were scientists saying that there must have been some kind of genetic change that increased the size of our brains. But how do you explain the past 150 years where we've changed even more dramatically? My grandfather used to marvel that in his life, he went from driving on a horse and cart to a motor car to a jet airplane. Just imagine you died 150 years ago and came back to life today. You would see beings who speak to little animals against their head, who ride in the stomachs of great beasts at impossible speeds and sometimes even fly, not just like a bird, but fly to heaven. You would think, where are the humans? Who are these wizards? Until you got on Twitter. And for a long time, we didn't understand how. But this is really what it came to, folks. Our incredible human brains, our superhuman progress has been driven not so much by our brains, but by the software inside our brains, by the learning that we do. It's that learning that has torpedoed our progress. And you can see your caveman brain in your own life. Just go think back to your birth. We burst into the world screaming like crazies, babbling adorable nonsense, face planting our food, obsessed with the breast. For men, some things don't change. We sleep for 18 hours a day, then wake up every 3 hours screaming. Whoever said they slept like a baby needs to get some rest. And now, look around you. We're pretty impressive. Some of us may be holding in the screams, but we've done okay. Everything great a plant is, everything great an animal is, it was born with. Everything great a human is, we have to learn. It's our ability to learn that has enabled us to do what we do. We've got to update our software. Have you ever got a software update? And you're like, yeah, I'll get to it later. And soon you've got an update of an update that you still haven't updated yet. And your computer is slow and it's buggy and you're tearing your hair out. And so you do what any self-respecting human would do, right? You put it off till tomorrow. Maybe it's time to update that software. How is it that the same brain in the head of a man, a caveman that went around saying, "Aga, aga," is the brain that put Neil Armstrong on the moon? The brain is like the heart of a computer. What really makes it special is software. The software that drives human brains is learning. So what software are you currently running, amazing human? Is it software that fuels anxiety and despair, that keeps you stuck, resistant to change? Is it an app that we've downloaded from social media or the news to keep us glued in terror? Breaking news. You're about to have your spirit broken so that we can sell you more things to make you feel better. Maybe it's time to download some better software. Maybe it's time to download some software that ignites curiosity and excitement and awe and wonder. Software that unleashes the best version of ourselves. Are you ready for that update? If you're ready for that update, I want you to raise your hand in the air and say, "Update now, baby." Oh, I want a little more from you. I want a little more from you. If you are ready for that update, amazing human, I want you to raise that hand in the air and say, update now, baby. Update now, baby. Good. Who said software updates couldn't be fun? So yes, we're going to do a little update. And there are 7 modules to the software, 7 updates that we're going to do. And we're going to have time just for one of those. And at the end of the session, I'll give you access to the rest, which you can do online. We just have some limited time here today. But I'm going to leave you with that first one, because the first one is really the portal to the rest. The first one is agility. For thousands of years of human history, success was what you could do with a wooden club. Swing, smash, try not to hit your head. And the king of the cave was, call him Rocco the Clubber. Yeah? Rocco the Clubber, man. He had the brawn. He was able to really swing that club. And he was a huge success. Until one day, a guy came around, called him Axeman, and he figures out how to sharpen some stone and tie it onto a little piece of wood, and he's got an axe. And with that axe, now you can slice and chop, yeah, and be even more powerful. And Rocco, the Clubber, he hates it, man. He hates it. I mean, this thing, it requires craftsmanship and patience. And really, it's not the way real men do it. Rocco dies. Club in the air, axe to his stubborn head. And then Spiro comes along. And Spiro figures out that if you tie that blade to the end of a long shaft of wood, you've got a spear. And now you can hunt your prey from afar. And Axeman hates it. Why? Because you've got to learn how to aim, and you've got to learn how to throw. And anyway, it'll never work. Axeman dies. Spear to his traditional heart. And then there's Bowboy, and Bowboy learns how to shoot a bow and arrow from afar, and now you can hunt your prey without putting yourself in danger, and Spiro hates it. I think you know how the story ends. New technology doesn't replace humans as much as it replaces humans who don't use new technology. Who do you want to be, amazing human? Do you want to be Kodak or digital? Do you want to be Blockbuster or Netflix? Do you want to be Taxi or Grab? Who do you want to be, amazing human? Do you want to be Goliath with that big, beautiful sword? Or do you want to be David with that innovative new sling? Who do you want to be? That's your choice. Your first software update is agility. Charles Darwin never said the fittest will survive. He said those who are most responsive to change will survive. I say those who lead change will do more than survive. Those are the ones who will truly thrive. I don't know why change has become such a swear word. If tomorrow always looked like yesterday, life would bore us to tears. Yes, it can be a little unsettling. But look at the opportunities that we have. We are living in the most exciting period in human history. Our ancestors couldn't have dreamt to live in a world with so much possibility. You know, the physiological basis of fear and excitement is the same. Increased heart rates and breathing and metabolism. But it comes down to this, the software. How do we think about where we are at? Let's be agile in that thinking. Rocco the Clubber, Axeman, Spiro, Bowboy. Maybe the problem was in their names. Yeah? They defined themselves by what they did. Your job title is temporary. Hey, Paul, maybe it was the problem. Just that title was not, you weren't loving that title. No. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe we got to burn the titles and realize there's going to be new titles and more titles, and it's actually not about the title. It's about the value that we bring, right? And spoiler alert, one of these keys, and I've heard so much about this today, and Paul, you spoke about it as well, is purpose. Because purpose is about contribution. And when you're contributing, we contribute in different ways, in many ways. Yeah? And different ways. And that's amazing. It doesn't have to be in only one way. When I was growing up, there were encyclopedia salesmen that come door to door. There's Frank nodding. Yeah? Yeah? In the States as well, that come knocking on your door and they'd sell you these encyclopedias. There were typewriter technicians. Do you know why the typewriter goes ASDF? It's not the best way to type, even on computers. But if you put the letters together so that you can type faster, in the days of typewriters, you'd break the typewriter. So they couldn't have you typing too fast. So that's why the letters are in kind of strange positions. True story. And that's a legacy we still have in computers today. We used to have video store managers. So, folks, what happened to those encyclopedia salesmen? What happened to those video store managers? What happened to the typewriter technicians? Some of them are doing just fine. Some of them are drone operators. Some of them are app developers. Some of them are big data analysts. They're doing jobs that didn't exist back then. They let go of their title. They let go of their title. And yes, maybe one day, there won't be jobs. And the truth is, I struggled with that because like many of you, I love what I do. I deeply love what I do. And when I started to see that maybe there was a way that this could be done without me, well, that's when I did get a little anxious. And I asked the oracle of truth, ChatGPT. And Chat shared some of what I've shared with you about not defining ourselves by our titles. But Chat said something else. And this phrase just, I found so moving. And it's brought me so much solace. You are more than the tasks that you perform. Chat said that to me. You are more than the tasks that you perform. My friends, there is something that the computer, that the chat does not have. It's the most precious thing about us. We are conscious. We have soul. We fall in love. We have our hearts broken. We feel the wind on our cheek. We are miracles of consciousness. We are so much more than the tasks that we perform. But when you realize that you are so much more than the tasks that you perform, you are able to perform more tasks, different tasks. And perhaps more importantly, you learn to love yourself even when you're not performing a task. Thank you for your story, Paul. That reminded me. So, Eric Hoffer, a great American philosopher, said, learners will inherit the earth, while the learned will be beautifully prepared for a world that no longer exists. While we do still have to do some tasks, let's make sure that we are the learners. Let's make sure that we are learning. The world that does exist is an AI world. And my friends, newsflash, it has been for many years. You already trust AI with your life. It's in the anti-lock braking system in your motor car. It's in the autopilot on the plane that got us to your beautiful country. We're trusting it to fall in love. 1 in 3 marriages now begins online. That relationship began online. We're trusting it on what to read and who to follow. Maybe sometimes we need to take back that control. Maybe, just maybe, it's not I and AI. Maybe it's not us and them. Maybe AI stands for augmented intelligence. Maybe it's not that AI will have an IQ of 1,000, but that you and I will have an IQ of 1,000. Right now, this week, at Neuralink, Elon Musk, for the first time, they are implanting chips, computer chips, into human brains. The most evolved part of the brain is the neocortex. That's what makes us human, creativity and thinking and rationality. Maybe we're about to get a neocortex, a digital cortex. And if you're not quite ready to get your digital cortex just yet, folks, you've already got it. It's in the palm of your hand. Your cyborg extension, your prosthetic brain. Are we so entwined with AI that we don't realize we already are AI? So that was the first of 7 updates. I got to leave you wanting more. Oh, really? No. Let's go. Give us some water, please don't. We're tired. We need to go to the toilet. All right. I'm going to give you a little takeaway. So if you go to that QR code, will take you to breakthrough@drj.com, and you will get the rest of your updates. If any of you are on social media, from Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, every week I put out 3 inspirational videos, and my handle is Breakthrough with Dr. J. Breakthrough with Dr. J. There is one thing I want to say to you. As Paul said earlier, you are our kindred spirits. Those of you who work with people and love people. This is the second time I've done this presentation. The first time was at the American Chamber this morning. I want you to know that, so my background is psychology. I'm not a futurist. The reason that I'm doing this is I think the reason that you do what you do. I care about wellness. And there is one little thing to bear in mind. Okay, I'm going to take 1 minute for this. I want a real quick question to you. How many of you think that the world is getting better over the past 30 years? Poverty has got, we've decreased poverty. Put up your hand if you think we've decreased poverty. How many of you think that poverty has increased in the past 30 years? Put up your hands. Yeah, let's get those hands up. So most of us think it's gone up. So it turns out that poverty has halved in the past 30 years. Thanks to humans and thanks to technology, halved. Don't trust me. Go to Google and World Bank statistics, World Health statistics. The world is getting better thanks to tech and thanks to us. There's one thing where we're struggling at. And we heard that earlier from one of our earlier speakers. Was it one of our earlier speakers? And that is psychological well-being. Anxiety and depression and suicide have been going up. And I want to encourage you, as people who love people and care about people, to prepare your people psychologically. Because materially the world is getting better, but psychologically we're taking strain. We need you to help us. We need you to give us a hand. And the rest of the keys are largely about future wellness. How we ensure that we enter the future happily. Thank you.